ill-defined. It's the customer's ill-defined problem. If it wasn't ill-defined, they wouldn't need us, and the consultant would be useless. So when we arrive in a consulting situation, we are dealing with an ill-defined problem. It is our job then to turn that ill-defined problem into a well-defined problem. So the customer comes with questions. Do you want to say that? They come with a problem that they think they understand. But as a consultant, our first job before anything else is to correctly define what the problem is, not solve it yet, but to figure out what is the customer really asking, okay? And then as a consultant, we bring all the information that's available to us in our expertise, but also on the site in the problem. We bring that into play. All the resources we have, whether that's research, whether it's, we'll get into that later, all of our arboricultural resources and all of the processes that we've become skilled at, then to create the workable and appropriate solution. Right? Now, let's take a break here for a second. The difference between an expert and a consultant. There's a thing called an SME, which is a subject matter expert. That does not make you a consultant if you are a subject matter expert. I know several people who are subject matter experts with the hemlock woolly adelgid. They are beyond knowledgeable to the point of embarrassment on my part. They understand the biology of the insect. They understand the biology of the host. They understand the environmental conditions. They understand what's happened, why it's here, why it's killing all the hemlocks. They've got it down, but that doesn't make them a consultant. What makes a person a consultant is taking that information and then applying it to a particular problem successfully and meeting the customer's or client's wishes. So here's a great quote, the value from the Consultant Management Institute, the value of a consultant as compared to a subject matter expert is, let's say some experts are good consultants and vice versa, and some are neither, but very few are both. Very few consultants and are subject matter experts, and very few subject matter experts are consultants. That's in the business world. In our world, the marketplace has defined it for us. They want us to be both, but we can't be subject matter experts in everything. There's just no possible way. Our field is so diverse. What's important is that you become a subject matter expert in something, in at least one thing. That's your goal. And you can carry that SME, that subject matter expertise, into being a consultant. Let me show you a little diagram here. This, some of you may be familiar with. The ISA publishes this on their website, and it is a great chart. It is a sort of like a career advancement chart or a career hierarchy, you might be able to call it. And or it's not really a flow chart, but it's sort of the flow that things go with as you come into the field at the bottom, which would be down here if you can see my pointer, and then working your way through all the options that are available to us. Now, erroneously, and I say this erroneously, arboriculture consultant is up here at the top. And I think that gives a false impression about what consulting is. Being a consultant is not meaning that you're at the top of your game or that you're at the top of the profession. It certainly helps if you are. And it doesn't mean that you have to complete, make a checkbox, all these things and complete them before you get up to being an arboricultural consultant. It also doesn't mean that you have to follow some line to get there. This is a two-dimensional diagram. The reality is that the diagram, when you're looking at it from terms of how do you become a consultant and how do you operate as a consultant, is more three-dimensional, in that any of these boxes could lead to being an arboricultural consultant. The fewer boxes you have, the more specialized you are. The more you have, the more generalized you are. So, for example, it is entirely possible that a crew leader in the municipal part of arboriculture, right there smack dab in the chart, could become an arboricultural consultant and not have completed any of the other boxes. They would just have to exhibit a high level of competency, and they would be very limited in how they could consult, but they could also become quite successful there because of their expertise and narrow focus on being a municipal crew leader. There are many, I just think about all the options that are available to people now just for that, from consulting with crews, with maintenance crews, storm cleanup crews, or even administrators or officials in the municipalities on how arboriculture works in the field. I mean, it's just amazing. So get your juices flowing here. There's some real opportunities here. So we can go to any of these boxes and turn it into a field of expertise, and then advance it to being an arboricultural consultant. So let's look at some of, and again, this is just a salad. It's a word salad of different competencies, core competencies within our consulting profession. Training, landscape design, project management, diagnosis of tree problems and landscape problems, data collection, analysis of the data or analysis of the design or analysis of training, analysis of any of these things really, municipal arboriculture, risk assessment, writing, business development, education, expert witness, legal consulting, municipal compliance, environmental compliance, and tree evaluation, tree and plant evaluation. Again, this is not exhaustive. These are just core competencies that we can look at in one, assessing, do we even want to get into consulting? And if we were to, where do you want to specialize in? The big mistake that a lot of budding consultants make is thinking they need to know everything about everything. And as we've just learned, that's just simply not possible. I have yet to meet another consultant that is a subject matter expert in all fields of arboriculture. They always seem to have probably 2 or 3 that they're really, really good at, and that's their game. The neat thing about this list is that they're not compartmentalized. In other words, writing, if your core competency in consulting is writing, that meshes with some of the other core competencies, like perhaps training or project management. In diagnosis, writing might, having a core competency in writing is going to help you prepare proper reports, and reports that are actually usable and are not just a bunch of jargon and data and tables, but actually something someone can pick up and use and act upon. Let's look at perhaps data collection. That is a core competency that has many other uses in business development, data collection in landscape design, data collection in diagnosis, data collection and evaluation. There's a lot of crossover here. I love this little list, but it's not exhaustive. So look at the overlap, and we're going to start taking a look at if there are people here who want to get into consulting, how you may do that. Now, there are some regional differences in consulting, and it's just worth a mention. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but the regional differences between consulting are going to be defined mostly by the individual markets in parts of the United States, North America. But there's also, of course, international differences. So, for example, I started arboriculture, my arboriculture career in the Northeast, in the Rust Belt. And when I came to Georgia, it was a very different flavor of arboriculture. And so in consulting, where I came from, things like municipal compliance and diagnosis were not real big deals up there. The things that were most important up there were lawsuits. People just loved to sue each other where I came from. So, that is a real nice field of expertise for maybe where I came from in Pennsylvania. In Georgia, we have some really cool diagnostic problems because our growing season is so long. And so that seems to be a real big deal here in the Atlanta area. But even within Georgia, there are regional differences. I live in a rural area, but I operate in all over the state. And interestingly, when you get out into the rural areas, the things people are mostly concerned with are lawsuits. I mean, that is where most of my consulting ends up. The larger projects is consulting on lawsuits, because the individual tree doesn't seem to play as much importance to people as it does in the urban areas of Atlanta. And so diagnostics are not of any concern to people out in the rural areas. And tree management in the private sector is of very little concern. Tree conservation on construction sites, not a whole lot. I mean, it exists from here and there, but it's not a big deal. As soon as we start getting into the higher populated areas, these regional differences become great. So your specialization then may be dictated by where you live, and that tells you how you want to concentrate. Now, there's international differences, like consulting in Great Britain is a totally different ballgame, and in Germany, totally different ballgame than it is in the United States. That is out of the purview. It's not my field of expertise in talking about international differences, so I won't go into it. All right, so I have defined over the years 3 areas of consulting ability that define how successful a person will be. Now, we're talking about success here, and we're also talking about satisfaction, not customer satisfaction, but the consultant's satisfaction with the work that they do. So the first one is competency. The second one is conscientiousness. These 2 factors play the greatest role than any other factor in how successful and how satisfied a person is with their career in consulting. The third area I'm not going to talk about tonight. That's maybe for a later date, maybe another class I'll start. It is actually a minor area, but it is one that defines the highest income earners in consultants, as far as consultants are concerned. That core competency, well, it's not a core competency, it's a skill. It is an ability. That one is very important. But again, I'm just gonna leave that as a mystery for now. Maybe the next class we talk about that. All right, so let me take a break here. Does anyone have any questions up to this point? Please, I've got the Q&A open. If anybody has any comments or anything that's not clear, please just go ahead and type that in there, and I will stop and answer the question. All right. So we'll go off with competence. Now, again, I want to go back to what we talked about as far as a subject. I'm sorry, I'm going to stop right there. A question from Deborah DeMarco wants to know, you have to tell us what number 3 is. Well, maybe we'll wait to the end, and maybe I'll mention it, and then we can go from there. But yeah, thanks for the comment. So let's talk. We're going to talk a little bit about competence, and then we'll go into conscientiousness. So in competence, we really need to define this this interplay between being an expert and being a consultant. This is the area where in arboriculture, how it's different from business consulting. So arboriculture consulting different from business consulting in that we as arborists are expected to have some SME, subject matter expertise, in at least something, in some core competency. And developing that is going to be critical. So let's say you're interested in improving your consulting skills. Maybe you don't want to be a consultant, but you want to improve your consulting skills. I've got a couple scenarios here of hypothetical people. So here on the screen, I have a very gender neutral arborist who is sectioning off a tree. and his joints are beginning to ache, and he's starting to get up there in years, and he's thinking about how he wants to move forward in his career, perhaps not as a climber anymore. The first thing, there's a 4-quadrant matrix here. Okay, I just want to tell you what we're looking at. There's 4 quadrants. The first quadrant is defining the consultant's likes, or the budding consultant's likes. You've got to do this. You've got to understand, what do you like doing? You will not succeed as a consultant in any way if you don't like what you're doing. As soon as you walk up on the site, the customer will know. In fact, look, I'll be honest with you. I've walked up on situations I don't like. Certain situations that I prefer not to do, but I do them anyways because I can do them. And sometimes I think it's obvious to the customer that I don't really want to be there. So you've got to know what you like. And so let's say this particular arborist loves climbing, been doing it all his or her life, loves pruning, he loves talking. I mean, you can't shut this person up, and likes the concept of big jobs, how all the little parts fit together, and they like how that all comes to something that's new, right? So these are the preferences of the particular budding consultant. Next, I would want them to then list their dislikes. Excuse me, and grab a little sip here. This is not an alcoholic beverage. This is a Polar Seltzer on sale at Kroger. I can't get enough of seltzer water. So dislikes. This particular person hates writing. They procrastinated as a student, couldn't get projects, those kind of projects done. They just hate it. I don't like pushy people. And they hate repetitive tasks. They like tasks. They like their work to be fluid. They like it to be varied. Okay, so that's quadrant 2. Third quadrant, then we're going to look at what are their competencies. Well, they've been a crew leader for a very long time. They know how to get a job done. They know how to organize. They can organize equipment. They can organize a job flow. They can organize their employees. They can organize their management. They know how to talk to customers. This person knows how to talk to the owner of the company, and they definitely know how to get things done with their people who are working for them. This particular arborist feels really good about those things. Now, this is the hard part, getting real and knowing what you need improvement in. This particular person is not good at diagnostics. Funny foamy stuff bubbling out of a wound at the base of the tree, just like, I don't know, I have no idea, it could be anything. And ornamental management. This person's been dealing with big jobs and large trees most of their life. They might be able to prune some ornamentals, but really manage them as an artistic asset is not one of their fortes. All right, so now we have our core competencies mapped out in this matrix. Taking a look at this, and oh, by the way, let me stop there. I hope that as we're doing this, you're kind of asking yourself, what am I good at, right? And we can go back to the other slide, but I won't because we've got to stay on task here. But with all the core competencies. But let's look at the matrix here on the right side and the left side. We have 2 columns now. This is what's critical. Likes and competencies, or I should say, likes and competencies are things you really can't change. You can't change what you like. You're going to like what you like. Trust me on that. Those things, that doesn't change much. What you dislike is something that you really can't change, but you can put up with it, but you can't change it. Competencies and needs improvement are things that you can change, right? So you don't want to get discouraged by the things in the needs improvement or the dislikes column, because we know that dislikes we need to manage in our career as a consultant, but we also know that we can put up with it for short periods of time. And needs improvement, just because you don't know anything about diagnostics doesn't mean you can't be a consultant. It just means you got something to learn and something to work on. And maybe you don't even want to do that, but you now can change something. So being aware of these things is important. All right, now we get this kind of this fleshing out of the personality of the core competencies of the arborist. What would you say, what kind of arboricultural consultant would you say this person would be good as? What would they be good doing? My answer is, I think they'd be a great, great training consultant. Even though they dislike writing, that's something you don't have to do a whole lot as a trainer. You can also hire someone to do that for you. Every job is different. Being a training consultant or a safety consultant is right up this person's alley. Agree? Disagree? Any other ideas? Put them in the chat. Let's look at another scenario. We have another potential budding arborist consultant. Their likes are teaching, training, and writing. Their dislikes, design, and project management. They prefer the minutiae. They like the minutiae of things. They don't want to see things from the bigger scale. They are competent in public speaking. They are actually rather good at working under pressure, and they've done a good deal of data collection and are really good at it. They recognize that they're not very good at persuading people, though, and they don't know anything about arboriculture and the law. I mean, very little. You know, they know you're not supposed to cut down a tree on somebody else's property. That's about it. All right. So take a look at this. What would you say this person would be good at in the field of arboricultural consulting? All right. This is what I think they would be doing, what they'd be good at. I think they would be great as an expert witness and working in the legal field. But you say, oh, wait, Jesse, no, you said they're bad at arboricultural law. Well, here's the thing. Remember, the needs improvement part of the matrix is the one that you can change. But they are very patient, obviously, looking at this profile. They work great under pressure. And if you're going to be an expert witness, you have got to be able to think on your feet, and you've got to understand the nuances of pressure and not take things personally. Data collection is so critical. Public speaking is critical. All those likes are right up the alley of an expert witness. So I would say, hey, you need to look into this. Start learning about the arboriculture and the law, and look into testifying for people. If you disagree, fine. Okay. Deborah has asked about ethics. Well, Deborah, I knew you were going to ask that question, and we are going to address that tonight. Under the field, all right, so we talked about those three things that make a arborist consultant successful and satisfied with their job. So the second thing, first thing was competence. The second thing is conscientiousness. All right, I'm going to give you some definitions of what I really mean by that. So what I mean by conscientiousness is it's a personality trait. It is a skill that can be worked on, but to some degree, I believe that people are either born with the ability or not. So you can improve on it, but you can only improve on your birth ability. That's my opinion. And if you disagree, great, let me know. So it's this personality trait of being careful and being diligent. It implies that you have a desire to do the task well. Now, again, you might be saying, well, that applies to everything. Yeah, it does. But in consulting, you've got to have this. Conscientious people, they tend to be efficient. They tend to be organized as opposed to easygoing and disorderly. If you are a disorganized person, arboriculture consulting is probably not going to be the best fit for you. Now, if you can improve that, great. It doesn't mean if you have a messy truck. That's what I'm talking about. It's being disorganized in your mind. Being organized in your mind and being very aware of your surroundings is critical in consulting. And that's sort of where I place conscientiousness. It's really about awareness, and not just awareness of yourself, but actually disassociating from yourself and being able to see the consulting problem as a whole, as an organic entity. You see the problem, you see the solution, you see the customer, you see things that nobody even thought to see. That is conscientiousness. right? So you're going to, this personality trait is aiming for achievement and success in the problem solving, planning. What else? It manifests as being neat and systematic, those kind of qualities. So if you can do those things, then you are able to improve on your conscientiousness. And you can imagine in the realm of ethics, that is absolutely critical. One thing I do want to mention, and I don't mean this to scare anyone off, and because I scare myself when I say this, okay, I'm going to freak myself out right now because every time I read it, I think of myself. But low levels of conscientiousness are often strongly associated with procrastination. Procrastination is not a quality that goes well with arboricultural consultation. You are the expert. You are the competent one. And being able to see problems before they unfold and then address them before they unfold is critical to success. I am a procrastinator, I admit. I fight it as best I can. And when I fight it and when I overcome it, I do so much better and I love my job so much more. So be aware that if you're getting into this, you may want to do that kind of, if you're getting into arboricultural consulting, you may want to think about your procrastination and how you handle that, okay? Developing this conscientiousness as a consultant is kind of the quick start guide. Is going to be our ethics. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but those of you who are certified arborists or have that kind of credential, all agreed to abide by the code of ethics from the ISA. Now, there's also the ISA member code of ethics, just being a member. But being a certified arborist carries with it a number of ethical charges. If you have not read those lately, I would highly recommend you do so. They're actually quite interesting, and they can really help guide you in developing your professional standards and your ability to be conscientious. The ISA Board Certified Master Arborist Code of Ethics, that too is sort of like, it's a progression from the ISA Certified Code of Ethics. Read them. There's some really good stuff in there, things that that you may not have thought about. There's also the ASCA Standards of Practice. So let me stop there for a minute. ASCA is the American Society of Consulting Arborists. And it is not affiliated with the ISA, although they often team up on some projects. ASCA is a great resource if you become a member, and there are some qualifications that you need before becoming a member. You can also become go through their registered consulting arborist designation. And ASCA is also now developing a tree appraisal qualification, which I think is great. I think it's one of the best things they've done in a long time. But they have a publicly available standards of practice. So I'm not going to put it up here. It's it's a PDF you can download. It's readily available to everybody. Just check it out. That is a great resource. So if you read through those, you're going to find all sorts of things that you realize that maybe what I did wasn't all that ethical, right? So think about that. Really, if you are if you're just a certified arborist not interested in being a consultant, please read those code of ethics again. They're critical in your customer relations. Now, going along the idea of competence and conscientiousness, when your competence is lacking and you're practicing consulting, or you feel that you're unqualified to do something, this is where your conscientiousness kicks in. So you need to know when a situation is not right for you. That may be you don't have the ability to do something. You don't have a core competency. Maybe it is when you don't know enough about a particular situation or diagnostic problem. Maybe you are involved in a consulting job and then it becomes more complicated, or other layers are added to it. For example, I've been in countless situations where I'm called out to diagnose a sick tree, and then we find out that its roots were cut by a contractor. And now it has turned into a legal matter, right? So when you're consulting, problems can really develop and turn into something, snowball, or turn into something that you weren't prepared for. And you need to know when to refer another professional. And get this. Oh, and by the way, ANSI standards are important too. But get this. If you are an ISA certified arborist, did you know that you are required by your code of ethics from the ISA to refer other qualified individuals? You are. Section 2A, all certified arborists, not just consultants, anyone with the credential, has to recognize the limitations of their professional ability and provide services only when qualified. The certificate/candidate is responsible for determining the limits of his or her own professional abilities based on qualifications, education, knowledge, skills, practice, experience, and other relevant considerations. And the certificate holder must make reasonable effort to provide appropriate professional referrals when unable to provide competent professional assistance. That is some good stuff, right? So know when you are ethically able to do something and not ethically able to do something, and then either refer the work or get help. So how do we get help? Well, we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to take a break and tell you a quick story that goes along with ethics a little bit. I got a phone call a few years ago from a woman who was distraught that she had people coming up and harming her tree. And she was interested in documenting the harm to the tree so that she could take legal action. On the surface, this seems like it's maybe right up my alley, or at least I could get her pointed in the right direction. She said she even had video of the people coming and harming her tree. Something didn't seem right. My gut told me that there was more to this story, and I dug a little deeper. And that feeling became overwhelming when then, as I was asking questions on the phone, she told me that one of the ways that they were harming her tree were that they were sneaking up at night and hanging symbols and witchcraft ornaments from her tree and cursing it. Yeah, I wasn't qualified to help her at that point. And again, the moral of this story is that it was my gut feeling told me something wasn't right. And had I not gone with my gut and know when to get out of the situation, I would have ended up selling her pre-selling her the consultation, going out to the site and looking at this situation, and then having the awkward opportunity to have to decline after I've already gone out there and wasted my time. So again, gut feeling is really critical. So when you are in a consulting situation and your gut is telling you something's not right, you got to ask those questions. Heck, I think I could do a whole presentation on asking questions. Yeah. Thanks, John. Go with your gut in everything. You got it. Appreciate that. Okay. So another option though, that I wanted to discuss, and we are at 7:17. I've got a few more minutes to talk, and I do want to take any questions, is the concept of sub-consulting and how that works. Now, sub-consulting, it's not getting help. It's actually bringing another consultant who has a core competency that is different from yours and bringing them into the financial arrangement of the problem and working as a team underneath your supervision. And this can be done on a small project or a big project. In fact, I do this more and more now as a general contractor in large projects, is bringing in sub-consultants. Let me give you an example of how a sub-consultant job might work. I'm involved with a project in North Georgia, where there's a very large property that is publicly accessible during a limited part of the season. And my job I am the sub-consultant. My job is to collect, process, and display data. That's it. Why? Well, because I'm good at it. That's what I do. That's one of my core competencies. The other consultant is handling the customer relations, taking my conclusions or my observations and then putting them in a more cohesive and understandable form for his customer. So what this does is with the sub-consulting relationship, it alleviates the general consultant from the minutia and concentrating on their core competencies. Even if the general consultant can do the data collection, being relieved of some of these duties is an powerful tool for the project at large and for your customer. Now, there's another thing that you can do is, as a sub-consultant, it's a great training opportunity. If you're interested in getting into consulting as an arborist, you can search out sub-consultant opportunities so that you can start to experiment and find out what you like doing and what you're good at. In many ways, that's sort of what I did. When I started out, I was, my career trajectory was I worked for a large company that provided comprehensive arborist services, and I was sort of their little sub-consultant. And so I was able to, within the context of larger jobs, develop my skills. It's great to find out what you like. You know, you might try something. You might try writing and find out you absolutely stink at it. You might find out that you're terrible at data collection. You might find out that you absolutely love the legal aspect. You love speaking with people and training. So that's one of the opportunities that I would recommend. Rather than jumping off a cliff into the consulting arena, if that's what you want to do, is to find these opportunities to become a sub-consultant, right? Now, of course, this is a little bit different. Like I said, it's being a sub-consultant is not, or looking for a sub-consultant on your project is not just getting help, right? So quick story, last week, I went out to look at a really cool hawthorn tree. It's not something you see a lot, but this was an ornamental hawthorn tree. It was about 20 feet tall, and it was a focal point in the landscape. And this year, it developed these spots on it, and I was called out to look at it. And I looked at everything around there and saw this red cedar nearby. Those of you who are at least fairly adept at diagnosis know that anything in the apple family, such as hawthorns, crab apples, and the fruit, don't play nice with cedars. There's that cedar apple rust is going to go, ping pong between the two species. So anyways, I knew all this, but, I just wanted to make sure. I hadn't diagnosed rust in a long time. Hawthorns and apples are just not and crab apples, I don't see them a whole lot in my arena and in things I do in my customers' landscape. So I just want to make sure. Some of these spots on the leaf, if you can see that, look like the ones with the little halo on them, look like prototypical cedar apple rust spots. But the other spots wasn't so sure. They may have been advanced. So, I just got help. That's not sub-consulting. That's just, texting your buddy and saying, hey, just confirm this for me, right? So that's just a tool that you can use. It's not sub-consulting, but, developing your network of other consultants is fantastic. And you got to get rid of your pride, Pete. As a consultant, the prideful consultants who don't ask for help, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how they do it. I always ask for help. It's, because we're working for our customers. So I put my pride in check. Okay, now this is my tossed salad part of the presentation. I'm getting close to the end here. There is a couple questions that will go back. John Snow had asked about, was it downy hawthorn? No, it wasn't. It was just your regular old hawthorn. And he also asked where to find sub-consulting assignments. Well, find yourself a consultant. This is not a plug, although sort of is. If you are looking for sub-consultants, let me know. Or if you're looking for that kind of a gig, let me know. We can talk, and maybe there's something I've got that could get us started in developing those core competencies. So thanks, John Snow, for that question. That's a very thoughtful question. So what does a consultant like myself do during the day? What does a typical day look like for me? This is my toss salad part of the presentation. We're done with the core competencies and everything. I'm just going to throw some things at you at the end. I'm going to go really fast, and then we'll have a few minutes at the end. You can ask some questions. So this is not my typical day. This is like a typical week for me. Okay, actual consulting time is probably about 2/3, right? That's when I'm generating the income of my time. Things like communication take up an enormous percentage of my pie chart, because that's critical. And I'm not going to get into why that is, and you should instinctively know why communication is important in consulting. That's going to be returning emails, taking phone calls, discussing the details of my report, answering questions, things like that. Defining the project, and what I mean by that is the sales aspect of discussing with my customers what to expect. That actually takes up a pretty good portion of my time. I found that really alleviates problems down the road. Legal aspects, that's just taking care of your business license, your insurance, all those kind of things that you hate to do. Accounting. Now, you don't have to be an accountant. And you could say, oh, well, I'll hire an accountant. Well, yeah, you might want to do that. You probably should. When I say accounting, I'm talking about like making sure you get paid. Okay, figuring out who you're going to, how you're going to invoice people, and how you're going to collect the fees, because that's going to differ all across the board. Maybe not. Maybe in your practice, you want to have a standard payment policy and it works for you. For me, unfortunately, I have to play by some other people's rules because I work on all sorts of projects. So accounting takes up a little bit of time. I hate to do it, but it's there. I have an accountant take care of the actual books. And then marketing, that's just sales. That's just making sure that you've got work coming in. As a consultant, you've got to keep your work coming in week by week, month by month, year by year. And then the OMG factor, which is crap, I didn't think of that. Those kind of things that pop up during the day. So that's in everybody's career. So that's kind of what as a consultant, you're actually only consulting maybe 2/3 of the time, maybe even only half. If you're actually doing the consulting part more than that, then you're probably not taking care of the important things in your actual practice. So I like to keep it, like that. Yes, John Snow also said that getting paid sometimes helps, and I would agree with that. All right, documentation. I wish I could spend more time on this, but I'm right. We only have a few minutes left. Documentation as a consultant, critical, absolutely critical skill. You need to determine how you will present your information to your customer. You want to define that upfront. You need to decide what formats are appropriate for your customers. That will differ. There is no report template. All reports from your consultation, all documentation from your consultations will vary by customer, by project, by problem. Managing your client's expectations for your documentation is important on the front end, telling them what they're going to get for paying you such exorbitant fees. Are they going to get documentation? Is it going to be an email? Is it going to be a booklet style report? Is it going to be a PDF? Is it going to be on a jump drive? Are you going to mail it to them? All those things need to be settled up front. And you've got to keep meticulous records. I will not emphasize that at all. Just do it. If that is a skill, all right, you may not like to do it, but that is a core competency, is keeping meticulous records. And they need to be organized and at your fingertips, whether you do it by paper, whether you do it digitally. I'm an all digital office, 99% digital. I spent a lot of time setting up my systems so that I can get to information very quickly on the fly in the field or in the office. If disorganization is part of your personality, don't even get into it. Disorganization is an unacceptable trait of a consultant. If you have a disorganized brain, it might not be the career for you. If you at least have some organization, if you can memorize a few things and list them off in order, maybe this is a great career for you. But really, I'm saying this to offend some people maybe, but disorganization is unacceptable in this profession. Okay, running out of time. I'm not going to talk about insurance. Just if you're a consultant, get insurance. You do not want to get sued. They will take everything. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. You can talk to your insurance agent about what you need, but that's critical. All right, in the last couple minutes, I'm going to give you my quick method to become competent. in consulting, okay? The top 10 method. I'm going to talk really fast here. Take notes. Back in 1994, maybe 95, I had the opportunity to study with Dr. Alex Shigo. And he said this to us in our class. He said, if you want to know something, if you want to be a proficient arborist, pick 10 trees, the 10 trees that you work with most of the time, and get to know them down pat. Now, this is a lifelong study, and I've made it a lifelong study. My list has changed over the years. Right now, I say maybe a few years ago, I've got here in front of the screen my Piedmont top 10 trees. These are the trees that I know backwards and forwards. I don't know all trees. I really don't. But these top 10 are the ones I know. And now it's changed. I mean, dogwood used to be on there. And I was going to show my dogwood to you, my dogwood dossier, all the information that I've collected, and then the information I've thrown out that I used to treat and care for dogwoods, all the insects, the diseases, what they're supposed to look like, what temperature the soil's supposed to be at. Are they ectomycorrhizal? Are they endomycorrhizal? Are they both? What kind of porous system do they have in their vascular system? All that kind of information, how your protocols, culture, different varieties. So I've collected that all over the years for just these 10 trees, and it's still growing, and I'm changing it. So this is my quick method, but seriously, pick 10 trees and just get to know them really well. And that will pretty much make you an expert in the field. This is a consultant's library I threw up here. If you want this library, let me know. I'll email it to you. These are just books you should probably have on your bookshelf, or at least have access to fairly quickly. Where to go from here? Sorry, I don't have enough time. I don't want to waste your time. I know we've got evenings and families to be with, but the ISA and ASCA are the primary areas that would support consulting. TCIA too, but in a lesser capacity. Here's my information. This is the best way to get hold of me, either email, and that's my cell phone. Don't abuse it, but that's my cell phone. You can, if you text me, I don't mind text. Please tell me who you are. Don't just say, hey, Jesse, I need such and such. Just please tell me who you are. Okay, I got to end it there. We're at the hard stop. So we have a few good questions. That's great. And if anyone wants to continue the discussion, feel free to contact me later.
Hey, Jesse, a great job tonight. We really appreciate your time and expertise. Really appreciated the talk. Definitely some, I think, unique territory you covered tonight that I had not considered myself. Conscientiousness, I like it. And empathy, also just being able to feel the situation. People don't think about that, but that is really important, especially in being a consulting arborist. Jesse, I know you have things to do. Would you be willing to hang on for let's say 7:38? Mm-hmm. If anybody wants to raise their hand and ask a question, and then also, so go ahead, raise your hand, and I think I will see that. If you'd like to, and I should be able to make you live. I know we are generally a very introverted group, which is interesting about arboriculture. I think one of the reasons we choose to be arborists is because we like trees. Sometimes people overwhelm us. So I think the initial interest is interesting. But what's nice about being a consulting arborist, sometimes you get one-on-one situations. So is there anybody who would like to raise their hand and ask a question in person? This is your opportunity. Here we have someone. All right, Greg, I'm allowing you to talk. You're muted. You need to unmute.
Okay.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, how you doing? Great presentation, by the way. Just a quick question. Have you ever been where you were a second opinion and had to go against the expertise, for lack of a better term, of another fellow arborist?
Yes, multiple times. And that is, the comfort level can be awkward there. Very recently, actually, I had to do this. And I worked with the attorney on the case, Greg, and his advice was, you don't criticize the the other opinion. You present your opinion in juxtaposition to theirs. You can point out problems with their opinion, but you don't ever get personal.
Okay.
And that was the advice he gave me.
That's
Thanks.
Sure thing.
Do you have anybody
Thanks.
else? I don't see anybody up. Here we go. All right, John, you're up.
Hey, Jesse, great talk. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hey, quick question. So you said that you're doing everything digitally. What software are you using primarily for that?
Wow. I could I could give you a week's long course on all that stuff. I've developed it over the years. I use several different platforms. Of course, the bookkeeping is a whole different aspect. There's plenty of things to do that. But as far as consulting part is concerned, I'm not obfuscating the question, but at the same time, I don't want to kind of mischaracterize what I do. I've actually written my own software to do a lot of my work. Now, that blows my mind to say that, but I've developed the software over probably about 6 or 7 years. And what that does, the software that I've written manages the information I collect in the field, that part of it. Okay, but that's not the only thing. The other software that I use, there's some business suites that I've gone and the one I'm using now isn't so much important, is things like customer service, like CRM type software, like Salesforce and things like that. I use a CRM to manage my customers, my invoices, and job production and calendar all rolled into one. And that just depends on what you want. You can buy the different packages, and there's so many out there. I don't want to say one is better than the other. And I've tried many. I used one for 5 years and got sick of it because it just wasn't doing what I needed to do. And that was, I'll tell you which that one was. It was called Service Autopilot. It's great for if you have a landscape company or a tree company, like actual cutting of trees, but not for consultancy. So I kind of fired them. And you want to figure out what you need automated, and then start trying things out. If you're looking for particular software business wise and CRM, and when I say CRM, I mean customer relations management, I would start demoing some of that stuff. And there's tons out there. I mean, there's new ones coming online every day.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question, John.
All right, unless there's another question, I think we're going to close it out for the night. I do not see any. Jesse, we really appreciate your contribution of your knowledge and your expertise tonight. We hope to have you back again, and hope to see you at one of our upcoming, whether it's the Trees. By the way, I did open the registration for the Trees Unite Us conference. If you were rejected your first time through that, please try it again. I have it in the chat. Jesse, before you leave, I have one last question. Are you going to be okay sharing, and please don't feel bad if you don't want to, share your presentation tonight for me to put up for members only on our website?
Well, my heart says no problem. My heart says absolutely. My head says better check it out first. So probably best, I'd say that probably an edit or modified. I just want to make sure everything is proofed in it.
Yeah.
For you. And I scrubbed some of just the nonsense notes that I've written because I don't want that to get in there. So I think that we can do some form of it. I'd be happy to share that, especially with all the resources and things like that.
That would be great. So I'll email everybody with an evaluation form, and not just of Jesse's, but of this whole Zoom presentation, as well as any ideas you have for future talks. We're here for you guys, and we're trying to make our talks as informative as possible. And I know this was a highly requested topic, so we appreciate it tonight, Jesse. And be safe, everybody, and have a good night.
Thanks, Neil.